fate.
This is the way. Truth is, I am Iron Man.
Tells me when you'll remember.
Hello, critics, non-critics, and friends. Welcome to the Film Optix podcast, brought to you by the Drive-In Podcast Network, where we discuss film, TV, and all things Hollywood-related. I'm your host, Christian, and I'm joined by friends of the show, Ryan Mcquade from Insession Film and Awards Watch, and Jay Ledbetter, from Insession Film Podcast. And last but not least, Nicole Ackman from nextbestpicture.com. And they are all here to help us close out on our 20-year celebration of Harry Potter. I can't believe we're already here. And we're going to be, of course, talking about the Deathly Hallows Part 2. And before we begin today's show, you can listen to our podcast on platforms around the internet. If you're a new or seasoned listener to the show, we'd love to hear from you guys. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Film Optix. That is Optix with an X. Nicole, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be back on the show. Thank you so much for having me again, and excited to talk about my other favorite Harry Potter movie. So I've got a fun story too about whenever I watch this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Ryan Mcquade, how are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for inviting me back on, Christian. It's wonderful to be here with you and to talk with Jay, and of course talk with Nicole again about Harry Potter. It feels like I'm bound by a court of law to talk about this franchise with her. So
well, you signed a contract when you came on to Prisoner of
That's true. It was a blood oath,
didn't know it.
and I can't take it back.
There's actually a contract. If I'm gonna mention Remus Lupin, you have to be here for it. So.
Here I am. So, but no, I'm.
We're gonna talk about Remus Lupin.
And you know what? Before you get his thoughts, I just want to say that I have been podcasting with, truly, I can say this, one of my best friends on the planet, in Jay Ledbetter, for 4 years now, and I have never actually, in a capacity, on any show, talked about this series with him. And I know, spoiler alert, he's a fan. How big a fan, you'll find out here in a second. But it is snap. There you go.
Production value on here is far higher than ours. Wow.
Yeah, I know. We need to get this kind of quality, JD, is what we're saying. But I'm excited to be here, and I'll shut up now.
No, it's all right. And of course, we have Mr. Jay Ledbetter. I apologize for butchering your name earlier. I'm getting over a cold myself. So if I sound like I'm dying, I just might be. But but Jay, it's great to have you on. I know you're a big Harry Potter fan. I've been hearing all the rumblings, and I'm like, I got to get this guy on the show. And it's really great to have you here. How have you been?
I'm doing really well. I kind of hate that I've had to turn you down or back out of at least one of these other recordings that we've done. And I know at least one movie that I hold in very high regard that I'm not sure very many people do, but I'm excited to talk about Harry Potter. I don't know that I've ever done like a long form podcast episode on Harry Potter, whether it was with Ryan or with anybody else. So I'm really excited. My history goes pretty deep with the Harry Potter franchise. So I'm pumped. I mean, I'm one of I don't know, 7 people in the world who kind of defend the crimes of Grindelwald, if that gives you kind of like where I'm at as far as Harry Potter goes. So, we're going to get into it. That is the crime of Ledbetter, is liking the crimes of Grindelwald. But,
you know what? You deserve a round of applause for that answer.
The crime of
there
Ledbetter.
You go. Nice. That's nice. Very, very nice. Very, very nice. But so before we get into the review really quick, I just had a few questions for Mr. J, because I know that Ryan and Nicole have already spouted their introductions to Harry Potter and whatnot. And just for a little bit of sake of time, Jay, what was your introduction to Harry Potter, and what is your Hogwarts house?
I was pretty much there from the jump. I'm like the perfect age to be a Potterhead, as I assume, everybody on this podcast is around there.
Everyone's a pothead around here.
Harry Potter, Sorcerer's Stone, the book, I believe, was released in the US in 98. And when in 98, I would have been 7 years old, which is like the perfect time to be reading and just get completely wrapped up in Harry Potter for the first time. I played all the video games. I'll never forget the Chamber of Secrets PlayStation 2 game. My memory card broke and it was like I couldn't save. And so I had to play it without turning my PlayStation off. I had to finish the entire game. And so my PlayStation was on for like 3 days straight. And I had to knock out that whole game, and I did it, and it was fantastic. And I mean, Harry Potter's just been a very important piece of my life. I mean, I'm talking about all the midnight screenings for the movies, right? I'm talking all the releases at Barnes and Noble for the books. You know, I mean, I remember, I can't remember which Harry Potter movie it was, but everybody dressed up, and I didn't have anything. And I went to Party City, and I think the only costume I could find was like, I was like, Sherlock Holmes is British, so I could like do that, and that's fine-ish, I guess. And that was the closest I had. And it was like, it's kind of funny that I dressed for the wrong movie, but also it's British. I don't know. And then the Sherlock Holmes trailer, I can't remember if it was Sherlock Holmes 1 or 2, but the trailer played before the movie, and then everybody like pointed at me and started clapping for me, and that's when I knew I was born to be a performer. And here I am on a podcast so many years later. No, Harry Potter is very, very important to me. If I would say, if I have ever been part of a quote unquote fandom, this would be the one. This is definitely the closest I get, and maybe I am, and maybe I don't know. I might just go crazy as we do this episode to talking about all of my Potter experience. But I'm a big time Potterhead for sure.
Okay. Yeah, that's amazing, man. I'm pretty much right there with you. You know, grew up with the books. I was 8, 9 years old when the film came out. First grade teacher actually read us the first book, like a chapter a week. And, you know, we didn't really know like how big it was going to be. And then it just, boom, like it's crazy.
It was huge.
And it's still ongoing. I mean, we got a 20-year celebration coming up January 1st on HBO Max, which is insane. I can't believe we're actually here, but
I want to play that new Hogwarts RPG for PS5. Bring it on. Let's go.
Can't wait for that special to see them pull Rupert Grint out of the ground or wherever he's been hiding the last couple of years.
He's been on his ice cream truck. He's fine.
Yeah. He's been on the set of Servant from M. Night Shyamalan.
Is he doing that?
Yeah.
Of course. A show we all watch and love.
Yeah, the discourse just runs wild on that.
He did an Ed Sheeran music video, you know?
He did.
Music videos, that's still a thing? You know?
He's in another Netflix series called Sick Note, which I actually started to watch.
Isn't it crazy, speaking of music video, isn't it crazy how like MTV doesn't show music videos anymore? Just food for thought. Just
Ryan, is this 2006 right now? Are we busting out bits from 2006?
What's the deal with music videos?
But Mr. Jay Ledbetter, really quick, what is your Hogwarts house?
I mean, look, I'm a bit of a basic boy, right? I mean, you know, I take the Myers-Briggs test. You know, I shout out to all my ISTPs out there, which of course is the corresponding personality of Harry Potter himself. So certainly I identify with Harry Potter in many ways or another. Some people have called me a low-key hero, a humble man of the people.
I've never heard that crap. That's a lie.
Some people have said it. I mean, whether you've heard it or not, many people have said. People are saying, Ryan. People are saying.
Yeah. Of course. Who you present those witnesses next time you're on the show?
He literally just said, "But I am the chosen one."
Well, you said it, not me. I mean, you again. People are saying. No, I mean, it is a boring answer, but I have always identified with Gryffindor first and foremost. Maybe it's the vanity in me wanting to be the center of attention. I don't know. I mean, I think the main thing was they're good at Quidditch, and I always liked sports. So that was kind of it. And I didn't want to be a Slytherin, right? Nobody wants to be a Slytherin. Has anybody said that they're a Slytherin?
Well, I hate to break it to you, Jay. I am a Slytherin. Call me Draco Malfoy because I'm a Slytherin.
If it makes you feel better, I'm wearing my Draco Malfoy sweatshirt right now, Christian. So
we got a lot. We got a lot of Malfoy to talk about today. We're gonna get into
yeah, we do. But I'm just saying, not all Slytherins are bad. We do produce the most dark wizards, but just saying, Peter
I feel
Pettigrew.
really good right now because I had Jay pegged as a Gryffindor, so I loved like all Ravenclaws. I love to be right. Literally went into the I love to be right.
When it comes to me, the most boring answer as far as what I'm like is probably the correct one. So I'm
Look,
glad that
somebody's got to be a
I'm glad
Gryffindor.
that you caught
Somebody's
on
gotta be
early.
one.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's true. It's like, you know what? Sometimes it's okay to be basic, and that there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever.
I say that to myself every day when I wake up in the mirror.
Do you say that when you go to Starbucks and get a pumpkin spice latte?
Yes, exactly.
As you mix up his pumpkin spice latte. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. What, ladies and gentlemen, are you ready to get into our review of the Deathly Hallows Part 2?
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
Sure.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back with a Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows review Part 2 right after this short break.
Let me get this straight, Professor. You're actually giving us permission to do this?
That is correct, Longbottom.
To blow it up? Boom!
Boom!
Wicked. But how on earth are we going to do that?
Why don't you confer with Mr. Finnegan? As I recall, he has a particular proclivity for pyrotechnics.
I can bring it down.
That's the spirit. Now, where you go?
You do realize, of course, we can't keep up you-know-who indefinitely.
That doesn't mean we can't delay him. And his name is Voldemort. Phileas, you might as well use it. He's going to try to kill you either way. Pier totum locomotor! Hogwarts is threatened. Man the boundaries. Protect us. Do your duty to our school. I've always wanted to use that spell.
And we are back with our Harry Potter and Deathly Hallows Part 2 review with director David Yates coming back yet again and writer Steve Kloves and J.K. Rowling as the credited novelists of the series. And of course, Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert, Grint, Emma Watson, the whole gang is back. I'm not even going to bother reading the synopsis because honestly, if you're listening to this podcast and you're listening to this episode, you probably know what's up. It all ends on this podcast. Unfortunately, this is the end of the road, but I wanted to ask everyone really quick, have you had a chance to re-watch Part 2 before this podcast? We'll start with Mr. Ryan Mcquade, then we'll go to Jay, and then we'll end with Nicole.
You ask me to come on a show and you think I'm not going to be prepared? You think I'm not going to watch this movie? Well, how insulting is that? That's insulting, Christian. How dare you?
Well, actually, me and Brendan, he actually didn't watch. He watched Part 1 earlier in the year, but it's like we've seen it so many times.
Brendan.
Yeah, he was like,
Classic
he's
Cassidy.
Like, well, I'm sorry, Ryan. Go ahead.
No, I did rewatch this film because it's great. And so, yeah, you want my thoughts on it, or are you just asking everybody if they watch it?
Yeah. Definitely
Okay.
give your thoughts. 100%.
Well, I still think that this is the second best film in the Harry Potter franchise. I think that this is everything you want for an ending. It's one of the shorter episodes in the saga, but boy, is it epic with every proportion. It moves at such a pace that the first part of the Deathly Hallows, sort of full linear story does not. That is more methodical, and it is more of these characters trying to discover more things about themselves and everything going on with the story. But by the end, it's clear as day, we have got to fight. And I love me a good war movie. I love me a good, let's just take all the shackles off. Been hearing for 7 damn movies about how powerful everyone's supposed to be. And we can just go at it, mano a mano, couple of wands, maybe some fists. doing some different things for sure, and getting to see this place of knowledge that is Hogwarts turned into a fortress of blood and death, turning it into a battlefield, turning it into the last chance for the wizarding world and humanity. That's so emotionally just heartbreaking when characters die. It's so rewarding when big moments from the book happen. I remember seeing this movie for the first time in theaters. And I don't know if any one of you Harry Potter fans have done this, but that night I saw it, the midnight screening. But I didn't just see that film, because the Alamo Drafthouse was doing a marathon of all the Harry Potter movies back to back to back to back. And so I went the day before, basically, or whatever it was. I don't know how many ever long it felt like. It felt like a day before. I started at like 4:30 in the morning, and it went all day, and it got to be the first ones to see it. And it's beautiful. There are moments at the end where I just cry. I think of all that whole sequence when Harry is going out there to sacrifice himself, and his parents are there, and Sirius is there, and just I think of that. I think of Dumbledore and him in the train station. I think of also one of my favorite Ray Fiennes performances of all time, because he's just so wicked, and he's finally honed in. This, I think, is the best representation of Voldemort in the series so far, because there is that sense of him reveling in the death and carnage, and there's that grin that he has when they presume that Harry is dead, and he is just sort of prancing. It is as cold as you would ever see. It is that the devil himself literally has won. And then of course when his reaction when Harry comes back is that of pure anger and frustration. And I think it's a great ending until, and it's always my problem with the freaking book, is that it ends on such a tidy bow. And I do appreciate that they used old age makeup instead of recasting the actors, because that was, I think, what they were originally going to do, and everybody was like, no,
we've got 45 minutes on the epilogue, don't worry, we'll get there.
but for the most part, this is the second best. This is the culmination of everything that David Yates has done before and since in the Harry Potter world. And the other sequence I'm assuming we will all talk about is, I think, the best sequence in the entire series, and that is the Severus Snape sequence in this movie. Where in the ever living hell was Alan Rickman's freaking Oscar nomination for this movie? He is so damn good, and every decision before that scene is meticulously calculated, and then it gets to the point at the end with it and those tears, and he's like, take them. And how do you not take your breath away? Take your heartstrings along with it. So it's a good movie. Movies are good, guys. I don't know if you know that, but movies are pretty damn
I like movies a lot as well.
And scene.
Yes, and scene. Yes,
and
Ryan.
scene, podcast, like, review, and subscribe. All right?
It would not be a Ryan Mcquade podcast if he did not just do a soliloquy, a monologue as long and gorgeous
keep
as
going
that.
If you want, I can keep it going.
He's got 2 or 3 more for sure. But this movie, I rewatched it as well. I watched it earlier today.
He didn't ask
as a
you
matter
yet.
of fact.
He could have gone to Nicole.
Well, he already said
ahead?
no. He already said the order beforehand. Yes,
He was signposting before. We know what's going on. Just trust us, Ryan.
I think it's pretty rude, James.
But this, I love this movie. I love it. It's, for me, I think it's number 3 in the series, in my opinion.
Crimes of Grindelwald, number 1.
Yes, Crimes of Grindelwald 1, Fantastic Beasts 2, Deathly Hallows 3. coming in the third, or Deathly Hallows 2 coming in the third slot. No, it's I mean, I love this movie. It was interesting watching it today because normally I rarely watch these movies by themselves. They're normally all, you do the marathon, you do all of them. Normally at some point during the year, my wife will be like, quit making me watch all of the crap that you watch. I don't want to watch Annette. I don't want to watch whatever A24 movie you're going to make me watch. Can we please, for the love of God, watch Harry Potter? And I'm like, absolutely. You're right. You're right. I've put you through enough this year.
I mean, it's either Harry Potter or Hocus Pocus, and you would much rather watch.
Oh yeah, Hocus Pocus. We fight over Hocus Pocus, but Harry Potter, I'm more than happy to take a stab at. And watching it today, I didn't do the whole watch through. I just watched this one, and I will say I like it slightly less when I watch it by itself. But that's kind of just the nature of a series like this, I think. And I think I liked it a little bit less because it is so action forward. It's so much about the battle at Hogwarts. And I think that's great, especially when you're watching them all in a row and it's this big grand finale. And I think it's extremely well done. Although I will say some of the deaths I don't think are given the due that they kind of deserve. I think that's one of the issues with the movie. But I mean, it is, how many franchises can you say genuinely like really did a great job, especially one of this scale? How many of them really did a great job of closing out the series? And this absolutely did that. I mean, especially if you were in the moment, so obsessed with Harry Potter, going to that midnight screening, tears are flowing, people are standing up, clapping. I mean, it is like such a perfect piece of crowd pleasing cinema. And it's just it's really a joy to watch. And it really does put me back in a certain mindset of when I saw this movie for the first time. And you're so right about that, the pensive sequence where they do the flashbacks with Snape. And not only are they very strong from a character standpoint and from an emotional standpoint, I think they're shot really interestingly. That sequence in particular, I think, is just a really interesting piece of filmmaking, which you can't really say about a ton of David Yates stuff. But this certainly has elements of that. And I appreciate how we'll talk about some of the differences between the books and the movies, but this is a great piece of translation to film because it doesn't indulge in kind of the moralizing monologues that J.K. Rowling really likes to put into her books, because that's what you have to do in a book, right? And here it's a lot more visceral with the confrontations between Voldemort and Harry, and just it's a great piece of action adventure filmmaking, a real achievement in kind of closing out a franchise that's this big, this important, this beloved. I love this movie.
That was a great answer. I love it. Go ahead, Nicole.
All right. So this movie is special to me in some ways, in that I talked about whenever I've been on the show before that I didn't get into Harry Potter until I was in high school. And so this is the one movie that I saw in the theater when it came out of the whole series. And I cried buckets then. And, it's still a very emotional film. And I will also say, because I know that before last time I was on, I said I needed to watch this again to confirm what my favorite movie was. And after having seen both of them recently, I can confirm this is my second favorite Harry Potter movie. My first favorite is Prisoner of Azkaban.
I'm with you. I'm with you there, Nicole.
That is correct.
The correct answer. Yeah.
Anyone
And
else
I think
that doesn't agree with that is wrong.
And I think it's interesting because Prisoner of Azkaban is the one that I watch a lot, like on its own. It's the only Harry Potter movie really that I'll watch like out of context of the others a lot.
It's the most solo mission of all of them, right?
Right. And I don't think I'd ever seen this one since like seeing it in the theater, not with Deathly Hallows Part 1, like not having watched the two of them back to back. So I forgot that this movie like jumps you straight back into where Deathly Hallows Part 1 leaves off. And the thing about forgetting that is that it puts you straight into Shell Cottage. So people who know me might know, Donald Gleason is one of my favorite actors and I love him a lot. And I forgot that he was in the beginning of this movie. And I literally had like started it and I was like looking at, I was actually pulling up the note stock, Christian, on my computer, and I heard his voice and I gasped so dramatically, like, and almost tumbled off my couch. And then I literally had to pause the movie because I was laughing at myself so hard because I literally was like, like I forgot that he's in these movies at all or something. But that's me, the Bill Weasley simp. And, you know, there is so much to appreciate in this film. I think, like, you know, both Ryan and Jay have said, it does a really fantastic job at closing out this series. I will say the older I get, the more issues I have with it. And particularly like the last bit of it. We'll talk about how much I hate the epilogue. But I also don't love the way that Voldemort's like death is done.
Yes.
And I think actually this movie just in general has an issue with deaths in that I think that two of the most impactful deaths of the whole series are really glossed over. One of them you don't even see happen. Anyone who's listened to me on the show before knows exactly what I'm mad about right now. Yeah. But two of my favorite characters are killed off. I don't even need to listen
to the episodes to know.
You're right. Two of my favorite characters are killed off and we like off screen, which infuriates me. And also, you know, I've got a handful of other issues with it. I also think that it's very interesting that this movie lets Dumbledore off a lot easier than the book does. And I am well on record of being a Dumbledore hater. And I like to see him held accountable for his actions. But overall, like, I think there's so much to praise in this movie. It has one of my favorite sequences of the whole series, which is the bit where you have Helena Bonham Carter acting as Hermione, acting as Bellatrix, which I think is just delightful. And, you know, it also has some like really beautiful moments. Obviously, y'all have already talked about Alan Rickman is stunning in this movie, but like, I love getting to see Maggie Smith have fun. In that clip that, you know, you played, Christian, remind me of that. Like, she is having a blast in this movie, it seems like.
She's better at this than like Downton Abbey.
I love her in Downton Abbey.
Maggie Smith is always perfect. That's actually a fact of life.
But that opening clip it's funny because my wife was she was putting up some Christmas decorations while we were watching this movie. And at that one moment, she was just like, Jay, shut up. This is the best part of the whole movie. Yes, I've always wanted to do that spell. Or
it's also like we don't, as these movies have gone on, we've gotten less and less of her. Mm-hmm. You know, and what so sucks about that is like McGonagall is one of my favorite characters. And she's just thrown away and wasted. In the books, some too, but you know, especially in the films. Like, and you have Maggie frickin' Smith as this, you know, it's like the Emma Thompson thing, right? It's like you have Emma Thompson playing this character, and we don't see her except besides what we see in Prisoner of Azkaban. We see her once in Order of the in Order of the Phoenix. And do we see her in this? Is she in this?
Yeah, she's in for like a hot second.
I couldn't remember catching her or not.
I forgot Jim Broadbent is in this for like all of a half a second. And I'm like, how do you get Jim Broadbent on your set and then be like, all right, we're gonna do one shot of you, okay? All right, you can go.
Did we also forget about everything that happened in 6 and then wrap that one like that storyline?
Emma Thompson, she's in it for like, it's after the battle when they're attending, like it's like a pan shot.
Oh, that's right. For
like a half a second. I was like,
that's incredible. I mean, that's so good. You know, she's still getting checks in the mail for that though.
That's why she never did anything for such a long time. She got so much damn money from this. She's like, I don't need to work. The HP money's in the mailbox. You know what I mean?
So, yeah. Sorry, Nicole, were you done or I wasn't? I just wanted to make sure that you were.
Oh, good. No, I mean, I've got plenty more to say, but it can wait.
She's like, I'm holding back.
She's got issues. She wrote them down in bullet points.
Notes.
Yeah. For me, you know, as you know, I've been running this whole thing. I've been rewatching them, and you know, I watched part 2 today, and it's just always sad. You know, getting to the end, like, you know, like we're here. But at the same time, you know, like, of course, with like Dobby's death, me and Brendan talked about it on part 1 where, you know, this movie literally picks up, you know, where the last one left off. And you see Dobby's grave, and the fact that they buried him without magic says a lot. and it says, "Here lies Dobby, a free elf." When it comes to this movie, every time, like, I mean, I remember this came out 2011, so it was a year after I graduated high school, and I was going through like my old like Facebook memory things, and for Deathly Hallows Part 1, like I commented, I was like, hold on, I got to prepare myself for this one. It was I literally said Harry Potter is the Harry Potter. I was literally like, I love Harry Potter. I was like, oh wow, I was a bit of a critic back then, but
damn. Oh, sorry.
I loved it so much. It's like, I mean, that was like my thing, like back in high school, and seeing it with my friends, midnight release and everything. Like I was on cloud nine, and rewatching it. I rewatch these movies every year. I unfortunately don't go back and read the books as much as I would like to, because I mean, the books they take a little bit more time as the series gets on, and we're getting older and more responsibilities. But going through this entire series has kind of prompted me to want to read the books again. But overall, between part 1 and part 2, like this is definitely the more entertaining bit. And like Ryan said earlier, part 1 is more artful. It is more the setup. That movie's run time is around, I think, 2 hours and 30 minutes, and this one's about 2 hours and 10. But like the pacing, much like Sorcerer's Stone, like it just keeps going, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I've seen it so many times, so like I'm used to like the pacing and whatnot. But I'm like, man, I'm like almost halfway done this movie already. I checked, had to get up, use the bathroom or whatever. I was like, wow, like I'm this far in already.
All the way through
it
it.
was more. Huh?
You had to go to the bathroom and you didn't go all the way through.
Yeah, bro.
The magic of home media. I watched half of it, went to go see Belfast, then came back and watched the rest of it. So if you want an example, I took a much longer break.
I just stopped for food. So.
And I watched it all the way through the way David Yates, the auteur, would want it to be.
To be fair, I think I've seen this movie 15 times.
Yeah,
like
I saw this movie I saw this movie like 4 times in theaters. Okay, it was a lot. Every family member I went with, I was like, yes, I'll go.
I can't jump in. Like if I just sat down, it's like, oh, I want to watch Prisoner of Azkaban. It's like, no, like I have to start at Sorcerer's Stone, like every single time. I've never watched, like I'll watch Star Wars movies out of order, but I can't watch Harry Potter out of order, like at all. Same thing with Lord of the Rings. I have to start at the beginning. I always have to. That's just my mindset. So it's like, if I'm going to start it, I'm going to finish it like 100%. But I love, like, like you guys said, the death scenes, and we kind of talked about this in part 1, where a lot of them they're just off camera, and it's everything with like Alistair, and of course with Remus, R.I.P. Well, I'll let Nicole tackle that one here in a second. In Tonks, and like there's so many deaths here that, I mean, for PG-13, it's not like it's as dark as it's going to be, but I really wish we would have gotten more. I mean, like this is Remus Lupin we're talking about.
I also think like Deathly Hallows Part 1 is a lot darker in some ways than Deathly Hallows Part 2. Like it just feels weird to me that they were like, we can give you this really intense torture scene in Part 1. And then we can't give you like any of the deaths on camera in Part 2.
Well, it's weird because they automatically, just the nature of magic, you avoid the blood that'll get you an R rating immediately, and they're still just like afraid, or I don't know why they're not willing to show those deaths on screen. But Lupin was my favorite character in the books. Like he was my number 1 favorite character, and then for him to be offed that unceremoniously was mildly heartbreaking to me at the time. Now it's just part of the canon. It's just like, it is what it is. But it was disappointing, and it is still disappointing because he's the best, and I love him.
Yeah. Get over it. Just move on with your lives. No. I think what's interesting is like I remember reading Entertainment Weekly way back when the 6th book was coming out, and they were talking about like the reviewer of the book came out and said, I don't know how you don't make part 6 2 movies, but then I don't know how you don't make it rated R, because this book is dark. And
You're saying 6 or 7?
Number 6. This was Half-Blood Prince.
Half-Blood Prince, yeah.
I don't understand how the movie got away with a PG rating.
They did a pretty good job.
That is insane, by the way, that movie is PG, because there's like literally that scene with Dumbledore. Like, that's
and
torturous
Malfoy
enough. Yeah, and Malfoy and stuff like that. Like, it's like, yeah. You know, Malfoy. I don't know. But anyway.
Pour one out.
Throw one up for Malfoy. Yeah, but
for my fellow Slytherin.
Pouring out for Tommy F. But anyway. But no, so I always was thinking that around this, when this book was coming out, or this movie was coming out, these two, especially this one, because like when you read the book, there is a lot of death. It's a war. It is the battle for the soul of the wizarding world, the future, everything we've been building. It's like, thank you, for the love of God, you finally wrote this ending that, like, I think it was Jay said that it's like they had the book to go through and realize that, like, yes, we have the satisfying conclusion that everybody's wanted. This movie, for the most part, is going to be pretty good. And yeah, there's still disappointments, and and yet the emotionality of all these characters, the story, everything works better when, even with the nitpicks that you have. It's one of those things where it's like, us as fans will nitpick about not seeing the deaths or whatnot, but what we do get is we get to see a full life, because we get to see the full perspective of Severus Snape in this movie. And we get to see this guy who, for 6, 7 movies, we have presumed to be an asshole for the most part. And then it is completely, the rug is pulled out from under us, and we are able to discover, like, this person was actually more of a guardian angel and loved Harry more than even Dumbledore. That is mind-blowing.
Still an asshole, though.
Yeah, I mean, still an asshole.
An
but
asshole
he doesn't.
with good motives.
I mean, the magic trick of turning Dumbledore into kind of a bad guy and turning Snape into the good guy is pretty great writing. It's a really great twist.
Yeah, it's wonderful, because like what we get with Dumbledore is like, he basically was just like grooming him so that they can kill Voldemort at the end. Like, it's using him as a sacrificial lamb, and it's really fascinating. And yeah, the connection, of course, obviously with Lily and everything. I mean, it's all
it's crazy, because I think I talked about this. I think it was on our Half-Blood Prince review, where, or even farther back, where obviously, we learn more about the Horcruxes in Half-Blood Prince. And then all this time, for the longest time, I was like, okay, Harry's been told that a part of Voldemort lives inside of him. Not once has he come out and said, "Heyo, am I a Horcrux?" But I do like how, at least in this movie, they kind of, save grace by having him say, I think I've known for a while. And I think, when they're talking about him sacrificing himself, and it's kind of like one of those unspeakable things where he's like, okay, I know this, but he just doesn't want it to be true.
The best thing about that scene is him being like, I think I've known this for a while, and I think you know too, to Hermione. And she's like, yeah. And Ron's just standing there clueless in the background. Like, nobody's even gonna tell him. Like, but no, that is actually like one of my favorite scenes in the whole franchise.
Yeah. I wish we would have gotten something more with Ron as well, because like you said, he kind of just stands
I know he's your
there.
boy. I wax philosophic about this scene a lot, and I talk a lot about my love for Harry and Hermione's friendship. But I really think that's like a beautiful scene between the two of them, and I think that like that's one of Emma Watson's best moments as Hermione. Is you see that there is this understanding between the two of them, that they don't have to say things out loud, and that she knows everything about Harry inside and out. And when she says, "I'll go with you," fully understanding the sacrifice that he's about to make, I just think that's like one of the most beautiful moments in the whole series.
Yeah, and like she like broke down. Like, she was just she was destroyed, like him kind of just accepting this, and Harry's looking around at all this this bloodshed, and he's like, I'm tired of everyone dying for me. And when we talk about Snape, he's also one of my other favorites, but it's crazy how everything turned out. Like obviously the entire time you're led to believe Snape is like this this conniving type of person who's always been a Death Eater, but when it comes to the love for Lily Potter, that's he plays the role so beautifully because he's super, super convincing. And then, when Harry sneaks back into the castle and, he confronts Snape and he says, like, how dare you stand where he stood? And then Maggie Smith just goes off. I was like, this is, what we've been like, because we don't really see a lot of skill from Maggie Smith's character. And I wish we would have gotten more. Like you guys said, she, like, as the series goes on, she takes more and more of a back seat. And I wish we would have seen more of her skill. We see it in here, but it's sometimes it's a bit disappointing. But I mean, for the movie itself, I think they did a great job because we don't get franchises like this anymore. Like, regardless, I think like the closest big franchise to Harry Potter I've seen in a long time is like Matt Reeves' Planet of the Apes. Like, that was fantastic. But it's
are you talking about like with the finality?
Just overall, like the finality, and just because we've all seen Rise of Skywalker. I'm assuming. And
what are you talking about? It's a great ending.
Don't remind me.
Pass.
Yeah,
I don't have enough alcohol in me to talk about that right now.
Well, I'll just say it's when it comes to part 2, they do a great job for a movie adaptation, like with all of its quirks and whatnot. I think it is a pretty good, entertaining movie. Definitely more entertaining than the first part. But it's, I don't know. There's so much. I mean, like, when they're going Horcrux hunting, and they kind of throw you for a loop because in the first part of Deathly Hallows, there's, you have the ring, you have the book, the diadem, you have the locket, Nagini, Harry. I'm missing one, aren't I? Is there 7? Or is it Voldemort? Is Voldemort the 7th one?
Isn't it in like the book?
No, there's 7.
The book?
No, there's 7. I'm missing one.
Diary, the cup.
The ring.
The cup. That's what it was. The cup.
Yeah. I was like, did you have the locket?
Yeah. And the locket. Okay. I mean, I just like how
locket, you put it in your pocket.
How many Potterheads does it take to name all 7 Horcruxes?
I thought we got there with the cup. I thought we did it.
Yeah, we got it.
No, we did.
Yeah, we got it.
Well, I think the interesting thing that you mentioned there, Christian, is about this finality, right? It's like we all knew going into the damn film that it was gonna be good. You know what I mean? It's we all read the book. It's kind of like people that read Lord of the Rings, but none of us knew because none of us read Lord of the Rings because who has that time? Like when we're walking into the movie, we're like, how's it gonna end? I don't know. Those people were like, we know it's gonna be good because we read the book, but it's about a way it's executed, right? Because you can have
Mockingjay was a good book, and those movies were not it. So.
Okay. I like
first one. I like the first one.
Oh my gosh, I thought they were both terrible.
See, I like both of them, but they do not stand up to the first 2 movies.
No,
and they don't stand up to Harry Potter.
No.
I would say. Well, I don't know.
I think Catching Fire is like the be-all, end-all of franchise filmmaking.
Catching
Fire. Interesting. Catching Fire is very good. I far and away the best one in my opinion.
The movie rolls. But no, this movie is like, I think what you mean to say, Christian, is we don't see epic.
Please tell him what he means to say.
Yeah, because I think saying comping this to Planet of the Apes is like, that's 3 films of like trying to reboot a tired franchise.
Well, and they didn't have a closed loop. Harry Potter had a closed loop. We knew when it was going to end. If War for the Planet of the Apes had made more money, there would probably be another Planet of the Apes movie.
Probably,
right? Yeah.
I think, but it would have probably it was always going to be a trilogy, and it was gonna, I don't know. Anyway, that's beside the point. The point is that like I think this grand storytelling is what we don't get anymore, and I think that that's what people clamored for with like Dune, right? And you can get that with Marvel, but we all filled the machine. You know, even with Endgame, they still didn't end it. You know what I mean? Like they've, Hawkeye's coming on Disney Plus this weekend. You know what I mean? Or whatever. So like it never ends with them. There's no finality. There's no really emotional connection that I think you can have and feel something for those characters fully, because if they die, they could come right back. You know what I mean? There's stuff like that too with these characters, especially in this movie. Even as you're watching it, reading the book, you never know. It's sort of like what happened with Game of Thrones a little bit, where you're like, how much do they keep going off the book, or do they go off the book to a certain point that offends everyone? That show did. This one doesn't. It has that blending of being able to be its own thing, be this great, just expertly paced movie. Like this movie is so, this is how you are supposed to do a movie like this. It's supposed to be in and you're out and you're moving and things are happening and are flying back. And maybe that is to the discredit of some of the characters and having emotional
slowed down
scenes
for the character moments.
Yes, but the only real characters that matter are the main three. And really the only one at this film that matters is Harry. Like it really just is his show.
But I would argue that wasn't the case in the book, and that's one of the flaws of the movie.
I understand that, but
yep, thank you.
But to make this movie move, like, because otherwise, if you're slowing down and doing all that stuff, it's great for fans. But as a movie itself, I think the pace would have died because of that, and then therefore you don't get this high octane drive that this movie I think has. Because then when it does slow down and it has those moments with Snape, it you feel it, but it's all because it's serving Harry and then his decisions and what he has to make. It never loses that focus. And for me, I'm willing to give that up because I have the book to be the book and I have the movie to be the movie. And the movie is trying to wrap up Harry's story first and foremost. And I am totally okay with that. I'm totally fine with that.
So I disagree. And I think that's because for me, taking out a lot of these deaths along the way and not really showing them to us, to me makes Harry's decisions in this movie make less sense. Because at the point where he makes this decision to sacrifice himself in the book, you get a real sense of the loss that he has witnessed and the way that this has affected everyone that he cares about. Like he's seen this person who's his pseudo sibling be killed, and the way that his family that has taken him in is grieving for him. He's seen the one last parental figure that he has left get killed, who also, like, this is one of my other issues with this film is in the book we have the fact that Harry is godfather to Teddy Lupin, Remus and Tonks' son. So he and I think that's a very important bond because of the fact that Sirius was his godfather, and we know what that bond meant to Harry.
Mm-hmm.
And so whenever Harry sees Lupin, Teddy Lupin lose both of his parents, like he has that tie not just to Remus and Tonks for themselves, but also to what that means for this young orphaned boy, which is the position that he is in whenever we meet him, a young orphaned boy who has lost his parents because of Voldemort. So I think that, like, because we miss out on a lot of those things, it loses a lot of its emotional depth that leads Harry to his decision. And it feels like it's more like, I think that's my thing is I'm not like a huge action person. I really need emotion behind things to care. And I feel like this leans a little heavy into the just like action, do this, do that, with Snape being the only real moment of like emotional stakes, which to me just doesn't make sense whenever you have all these characters that Harry has had close relationships with also dying, that like you need that build up to the point where he sees that like he doesn't see another option for himself because he's willing to do anything to stop the people that he loves from dying. Whereas in this, it feels much more of a like heroic, like now I will go give myself up for the greater good. Whereas I think in the book, there's more this idea that it's not the greater good as much. It's the good of these people that he knows on a personal level.
I get that, Nicole. What I'm saying is that anecdote you just mentioned about being like a godfather and stuff, it's not in the films. It's not in the films.
Exactly.
But still, Lupin is an integral part of the movie, and all that we get is them getting a sheet thrown over him. I mean, it's no good.
Yeah, and they mention his son like once.
Like literally. Also, too, the number one thing that has been it's terrible about the whole series in general. It's one of my number one giant complaints is Jenny Weasley, because I think that character is so like just the fact that like, oh, they're now in this, oh, they're now a relationship. No, that's been built in the books, like, in everything. It's not just like, oh, we just decided you're going to be with Ron's sister because you need him to be with somebody that isn't Emma Watson, because of the fact that Daniel Radcliffe and Emma Watson have amazing chemistry on screen. And yet in the books, clearly she's supposed to be with Ron. And in the movies, it's like, well, those two have clearly not enough romantic chemistry to, justify any of that. But it's kind of just in the movies, it's pushed, and I don't like that. And even in this movie too, there's like when Jenny kisses him and she's all like, go do your thing or whatever. It's like, she does her whole Spider-Man 2 thing. You know what I mean? It's like, I sit there and I go, who are you? Like, what are you like? You're slowing down the pace.
And to think
that's the point of it.
We could have gotten Remus Lupin's death, and instead we got that weird reunion scene with Jenny.
I'll trade you that, and then there would be a better.
This is the shortest Harry Potter movie, 2 hours 10, the absolute number one shortest. By the way, I looked up that marathon that you were on, Ryan. 19 hours and 40 something minutes, I think. So
yeah, so it felt like a whole day.
You should be put in a federal. Is my opinion on that matter.
Is it federal prison? Yeah. Well, also, my wife went with me, and she's not a Harry Potter fan.
Oh, God.
So actually, she's sainthood.
That's true love. That's true.
But
love.
I also took her to the Lord of the Rings extended edition marathon, where they played the extended editions back to back to back on the big screen, and we did that, and so that made up for that. And I also had to sit through all of phase 1 on the big screen leading up to the premiere of
there you go.
Of the Avengers. So I had to sit there and I had to watch Iron Man 2 and the Incredible Hulk back to back. So who's the real?
That's a tough draw there. First of all, let me just say, more like Severus Simp. And then let me continue to talk by saying Ryan earlier interestingly said that he, like, as a fan, he finds stuff to nitpick, but when he looks at it on with a wider lens, he sees the value of it. I'm kind of having an opposite opinion right now. When I put my little film critic glasses on, I'm like, well, there's this problem and this problem and this problem. And then I put my fan glasses on and I'm like, I don't care about any of that. This thing works like gangbusters for me. It pays off like a dang slot machine at the end of the movie. I'm like, the ending of this movie is an absolute calamity. But I'm just like, I cried anyway. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, it really is just like the culmination of this thing that is so important with me. And I spent so much time thinking about and participating with, interacting with, and it just works from that perspective. It gets the easy stuff right, which for the last film in a series like this is the most important thing. And it gets all of the big stuff. I think it largely gets right. Could there be changes made? Could we have done more justice for some side characters that we love? Yes. But at the end of the day, it is at its heart the story of Harry, Ron, and Hermione, and their arc through this story and through the whole series is done so well that it really does. It pays out like gangbusters at the end. So,
yeah, I agree with you there. It's even like we keep talking about side characters because, I mean, as I said before, seldom is it that, like I don't think as of this conversation, Harry is no one's favorite character here. And it's, I don't know. I do agree with you guys because, like, when I was watching it again, it's just, you know, like you have this grand finale, you know, you see like just with everything with Snape, that was I think out of all of these side characters, I feel like they had to pay more attention to Snape than anyone else, just because of his love for Harry's mother. And it is kind of just really messed up, because I think Nicole had said on Prisoner of Azkaban, you know, the actual age of these characters in the books, especially with Harry's parents, they were like mid-20s.
They're early 20s when they died.
Early 20s when they had Harry.
Yeah,
so
I think Lily and James are 21 when they died.
Yeah.
Ooh,
so they
problematic.
die like super young. And I feel like our perception of these characters when it comes to the big screen, I believe Nicole has said this, it kind of like warps your perception, because, you know, like, oh, well, Harry's parents are supposed to be adults, so they're supposed to be at least like in their mid-30s, like 40s, whatever. But it's like they look so old for the.
I think what we lose is the fact that Harry's parents and Sirius and Remus and all the other people, you know, of that generation are only a few years older in the first Wizarding War than Harry, Ron, and Hermione are in the second Wizarding War. Like, I think that that's actually significant, because we see that like Dumbledore has raised not one but two generations of child soldiers, essentially, and all the sacrifices that he asked of Harry's parents and their friends are the same sacrifices that he's asking of Harry and his friends all over again. And there's like a weird cyclical nature to it. And I think that whenever these other characters are presented as adults, it makes it like a little bit, I don't want to say like it makes it a little bit less tragic, but like Sirius Black going off and, you know, doing, oh my God, that triggered my Siri on my computer. That's so funny. No, I said Sirius, not Siri. But Sirius Black, you know, reacting like he does to the Potters being murdered, I think makes a lot more sense whenever you think of him as a hot-headed 21-year-old. Yeah, I just, that is, and again, it happened, that scene, listen, I cry anyways, but the scene where he does go and he has the, oh my God, what's it called? The Resurrection Stone. And you have James and Lily Potter. I'm like, they're too old. Like, that's not, they should be not much older than Harry in that scene.
Yeah, it's so, I mean, it's all about perspective, because I believe Sharia said on our Half-Blood Prince review, you know, like, you have to like keep reminding yourself that these are kids. Like, they're not, you know, like, obviously, like, they are everyone's a little bit old, like aged up here and there, but it's so it's just crazy to think about. But I wanted to punt it over to Jay. Did you have any gripes? Like, what were your gripes between the books and the movies? Because I know you kind of touched on that earlier, besides the whole Lupin fiasco.
Yeah, I mean, I think about there's an exchange early on in the film when he goes and sees Dumbledore's brother, and there's a throwaway line. I think Harry says something along the lines of like, "I don't care about what happened to your sister," or something like that. And it's like, that was one of the most emotionally impactful parts of the book, and I understand why they have to do it, because it is an aside. It's almost like its own sort of chapter in the book that is meant to build on character and is completely devoid of any real plot. I understand why that's something you cut out, but it is such a good part of the book that I understand why they had to cut it out. They didn't have to be so flippant about it. They were just like, it doesn't matter. Yeah. I mean, I didn't
either cut it or don't.
Yeah. Just don't even mention it, really.
I do think though that like it is, I wish that they'd found a way to incorporate it, even like, obviously they go like quite into it in the book and they didn't need to do it in that level of detail, but I do think it's like an important stepping stone that leads up to what we learn about Dumbledore and Snape's relationship, because we see that like how Dumbledore has treated people over and over and over again.
It's emotionally manipulative.
Exactly. And I think that sort of lays the groundwork for what we find out about his treatment of Snape. And then, you know, that leads us into what we know about his treatment of Harry. So I do wish that they'd found a way to like integrate it at least a little. Like, we could have had like a few lines about it instead of, I agree, Jay, like, bringing it up and not doing it.
Yeah, it's
almost feels
weird.
Worse.
Yeah,
I mean, they
because
did such a good job with it in part one. They did such a good job with the background of the Deathly Hallows. They could have maybe done something along those lines,
That
as sort
was
of like
my
a
thought.
side
maybe
story.
like an animated cut, like they did,
Something, yeah, I don't know.
With they've got the painting, they could have done a little.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
So,
I
like,
believe with their sister, she was an obscurus, and then there was the whole fight between I guess you can say the Dumbledores. So they don't really know who killed her. I'm not like, was it? I can't. It's been a while since I've read the books, but did they explain that it was Dumbledore that killed their sister? And I'm sorry, I'm blanking on her name as well, because they just literally gloss
Ariana?
over and
Is it
Ariana. It's Ariana.
Ariana.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember if they specifically said in the books or not if it was that Dumbledore killed Ariane, or was it, this whole disagreement. I can't really remember. I'm drawing a blank.
That's why we have Google.
Well, look at everyone's beautiful faces right now.
To the wiki. It's like we need the wiki.
The wiki. No.
I'm monitoring the time and making sure everyone's wavelengths and everything. I'm sorry.
So one of the things that I really found interesting about the film, and one of the things that is a memory of seeing the movie and just an image that I can't get out of my head, is sort of like the way Hogwarts looks like it is part of like a Nazi regime basically now. And it sort of feeds into that. It's like there are all these children walking, like almost like walking, goose stepping throughout this entire place. This is a place that is supposed to be happy. It is like we have seen this place, Hogwarts, be a beacon of escapism for our entire group of characters, and yet this place has turned into almost like a bunker, a refugee sort of center, because like the way the Gryffindor corridor just looks, you have like this hole leading outside, you have everybody like sort of bunkered in together, like you can't laugh, you can't do anything, it feels like, because otherwise someone's gonna like beat the hell out of you. And then I think one of my favorite scenes, because I think it's one of the better Daniel Radcliffe performances in the series, is the confrontation in the Great Hall between Snape and Harry. And it is that how dare you stand where he stands, right? And this is before we know everything, of course, the turn and everything. But it's so like, you would feel like that in that moment. Like, how could you betrayed this man that everyone in this room loved one way or another. You betrayed him. And yes, it's part of your master plan, but it's still terrible. And Snape's just like internally having to eat it. It's like he can't reveal. Snape is a wonderful poker player, because like the guy is like got these cards and he just can't reveal it. But I just love the way it looks. And then when he's about to fight Harry, McGonagall steps in, and that is the moment where Snape's like, no, I cannot do this. I cannot go and even remotely try to attempt to fight. I killed Dumbledore already at the bequest of him, but now I have to fight up against someone that I also consider someone that I look up to. I can't do that. And the way that McGonagall sort of brings light back into the entire building, it's like, thank you. Like this, it's so perfect. It's the perfect thing of bringing the good back into the world.
Every time though, it gets me every single time when they're like, what do we do with the Slytherins? Take them to the dungeons. Because I'm like, okay, so are we not going to let them like decide? Like, are we not going to, give any of them a choice?
No, then it becomes like they're all
because...
inherently bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that doesn't seem right after we've like, especially in the same movie where we're like, surprise, Snape is actually the good guy. That we're not going to give any of the other Slytherin kids a chance.
I was thinking,
that's fine.
I was thinking in that scene, like I might have homeschooled my kid for a year. All things considered, maybe don't send him back to Hogwarts.
You missed it. On the Prisoner of Azkaban podcast, I was like, listen, Lucius Malfoy is wrong about many things, but he is also the only parent showing the level of concern that I would be for my child at Hogwarts. Like, he's the only one who like notices that, like, you know, people keep saying like, oh, Hogwarts is the safest place in the wizarding world. And I'm like, if that's true, then I'm deeply concerned for everywhere else in the wizarding world.
Yeah, you got all these secret passageways with like snakes in there and like 3-headed dogs and like a ridiculous chess game. You know
Every year
like,
for 7 years in a row, there's a challenge that almost kills every person in the school.
yeah,
and yet it's the
like
safest place.
It's the death of Olympics. You know what I mean? Like that's what it is.
It must be terrible for the first years.
Yeah.
With Harry's last year,
it's like the worst summer camp alive because it's year round.
It's I mean, what Jay was saying, like the whole like homes. I don't even know if they homeschool wizards. To be completely honest, I think they just ship them off to school and like
give them
like,
a year off, something.
Isn't like half the thing about it is it's like they have to be a certain age before they can start using the magic, and then they have to be like trained within school, so therefore like they can't be a wizard if they don't go to school. It's a real elitist way of thinking, you know what I mean? Not a lot of alternative thinking in the wizarding world, you know what
I don't know, go let him hang out with Eddie Redmayne.
I'd be shipping my kids to Ilvermorny, Beauxbaton, somewhere else.
She said any other magical school that isn't Hogwarts. Please.
They can learn French, it'll be fine.
Oh, absolutely.
Can we talk about my favorite scene in this movie?
The last scene?
No.
It is. I mentioned it earlier, but it is the Voldemort sort of like celebratory thing, because in a movie that is very dark and everything, I actually weirdly laugh a lot during that. Maybe it's just because I'm a cold-hearted bastard, but like I laugh so much at how much fun Ray finds is having.
Oh, he's so theatrical. His line reading of is all time. It's all so great. Good.
No, but like the stuff with like with Draco and like the hug that
apparently was unscripted. The fact that is apparently Tom Felton's genuine reaction to him hugging him in that manner.
It's terrifying, and it's so good. It's so good. And then like,
I also I'm sorry, I have to side note now to say, I think that the way that the Malfoys as a family are handled in this film is like really interesting, and actually one of the few things that I think is like better than the book. I love that Narcissa and Lucius roll up to this battle and they're like, we care about one thing and one thing only. We're going to find our kid and we're going to yeet the hell out of here. I can stop myself. And like, and it is this thing of like, you know, every time I watch it, I think about the fact that they both roll up to this battle without a wand. They don't have anything.
No, because he hands it over.
Right. And because Voldemort has already broken Lucius's wand and Draco has Narcissa's wand at this point. So they've both rolled up. They're like, we have literally one goal, and it's to find our kid. And I also like Jason Isaacs in this movie just looks broken. Which I just
look like they put soot all over his face and said,
I
in there, dude.
In this movie, though. He's incredible. Like, I love Jason Isaacs so much in general, but
he's got the same energy as he does in Mass.
Yep. Yep. This is me shouting out my campaign for him.
I don't know. He's a little bit more cheery, I guess. I don't know.
But like, no, and I think that like also I love Narcissa Malfoy in this movie because I think that we do see that like we have a lot of examples of good mothers in Harry Potter, obviously making sacrifices and stuff for their children. And we have Lily Potter and we have Molly Weasley. But in this one, we sort of see that Narcissa Malfoy loves her son as much as Lily Potter loved hers, or Molly Weasley loves any of her children, arguably more than Molly Weasley loves some of her children.
They're in them, just like the whole thing about like they're presented to most of us throughout this entire series as bad guys and villains and terrible parents and everything. And they're really not. They're just survivors.
That one shot when like the rest of the battle is going on and Narcissa has Draco like by the hand and it's just like marching off that like across that bridge and like Lucius is like scurrying behind them. I just love it so much because she is in full like Banff mom mode. Like she's like I I got what I came for. I'm out. And I think that that's so fun. Yeah, she's like, I literally don't care what happens.
And she's like, oh, that kid woke up. Good for him. We're leaving. You know what I mean?
She's like, okay. Like, yeah, and God, watching it though made me miss Helen McQuarrie so much. Like all of that. It's different now. With both her and Alan gone now, it's
it's
very sad to watch.
Every time, you know, like you go back and kind of, you know, watch these films where, you know, the actor or actress has, you know, passed on. It's hard sometimes because it's like, man, it's like it's almost, you know, it's like they never left. And you know, you see that throughout this entire series. And I actually wanted to talk about, so I was talking to Brendan about this, about the Elder Wand situation, and how in part 2 we finally actually get more into the wand choosing the wizard type thing, as Harry put it, you know, as if wands have feelings. We don't really get a lot of that in the films, but Brendan was saying he felt like it was a bit shaky how the Elder Wand ended up in Harry's possession, because Voldemort thinks that, you know, since Snape killed Dumbledore, then the Elder Wand is in his possession. But obviously he doesn't know that Draco disarms Dumbledore prior, so it was actually swearing allegiance to Malfoy. And then I guess when Harry took the wand from Malfoy in Malfoy Manor, I guess that's kind of like when it switched over to Harry at some point. I really don't know. It was kind of weird.
It is weird and convoluted. Like you need like a freaking diagram to map it out.
It's like Charlie Day, just get the diagram. This is what happens. But yeah, I always thought that was kind of weird, but it makes sense. But I really wanted to talk about just Severus's memories, because I think that whole scene with, you know, his past with Lily, and, you know, just kind of like his experience. It's like every time I watch it, it's like, man, like Snape is like the man who like essentially saved the wizarding world. Like, I mean, at least to me, but it kills me every time when you see how, even though he is hard on Harry, it comes out of love, but it's, I don't know. I've just always enjoyed the that sequence, and essentially Harry being the only person that knows about Snape, because I don't think that he kind of like explains that to everyone else about who Severus really was, instead of giving one of his kids, you know, the middle name of Albus Severus. Nicole, I got
a headache just thinking about the name Albus Severus.
Yeah,
man, that kid is so getting swirlies.
You were named after the two men who manipulated me the most while they were alive.
More so Dumbledore, because I mean,
you one day will grow up to be a gaslighter yourself.
Oh my God.
What's just so terrible about it is Albus Severus Potter. Like, it just doesn't flow, dude. Like,
Hagrid is crying somewhere when he hears that name for the first time.
It's serious.
Hagrid's like, what the hell do I have to do to get can I get a middle name? You know what I mean? Like, it's ridiculous. Yeah. God, that epilogue's so stupid.
I mean, so what I guess, like, what do you guys think about the epilogue?
I hate it.
Yeah,
it's so bad. I mean, it works as a fan, but it is bad. It is bad. It's bad.
You're really going to tell me Harry Potter grows up to marry his high school girlfriend and become a cop?
Oh yeah, that's right. He's an Auror. And I was like,
well, do you want to get into? If we want to do a Cursed Child episode, I'm in. Just know that no one will be talking for 3.5 hours as I just go on a tyrannical.
I've actually only got like 20 pages in, and then I stopped.
God, one of my least favorite pieces of fiction I've ever taken in. It is truly I think it is so bad.
Yeah, it's right up there with the second Harper Lee book that was released. Like, in terms of like the anticipation
on a list of books that should never have been released.
Yeah, it's like it's something that, like, look, I understand. Like, if she really wanted to make that a book, she should have made it a book.
Yeah,
but
It's a
instead
play,
she made it this stupid ass play, and really, it's almost like a play of hypotheticals. Like, it's not really a play of absolution, but it is her Star Wars prequels. Where that
it's worse than that.
No, it is as bad as that.
It's an episode of Harry Potter What If.
Yeah,
it's like
Disney Plus,
fan
except it's
fiction
canon.
that she herself
Yes,
wrote.
exactly. Yes,
it's like
exactly,
fan fiction,
Nicole.
but like the thing is, it's bad fan fiction.
It's bad fan fiction.
Yeah,
it's the fact that she wrote so many other books that didn't do well at all, and she had to go tappy tap tap back to the well. And the problem is the well ran dry because there is nobody in the world that is a massive Harry Potter fan that can sit there and actually defend the epilogue and think that they'll walk away without getting their wand taken in any of their pets and all this other things that that are a part of this world, because it is the point of this is I don't give a crap about their futures. They said this is it. This it right here.
No, that's fine. It's all wrapped in too neat a bow, though. It's like
it's too
everything from the last 7 years shaped the rest of their lives.
And I read this whole essay this time on basically how like the epilogue just doesn't ring true for millennials' reality in terms of like everything is tied up really nicely. Everybody's got their 2.5 kids and they're sending them off, and they all apparently had children very young. And have settled into the people that they were dating when they were 18. And it just, none of that feels right. Like, there's no exploration of the fact that, like, let's be honest, with any sort of real characterization, these are a group of people who would have really intense trauma that they would be dealing with and into their adult lives. And like, you just cannot tell me that, like, there's also these people who have had issues with authority their entire adolescence, and then immediately just go into nice, neat government jobs. Like, none of it feels in character. I think that's the thing that gets me, is that like none of it feels like a natural progression. It feels like, oh well, we got to figure out what to do with these characters.
It is, yeah. It's kind of like the wizard equivalent of the white picket fence with the whatever. It's the Wizarding World Dream or whatever, the American Wizarding World Dream. It's very silly. Also, power ranking of who looks the worst in the epilogue. Draco looks the worst with his horrible, god awful beard.
What did they do to him?
Who did he end up with? I can't remember.
Ginny is second. She looks so bad. She looks like the one who's playing dress up the most. She
Yep.
I think Radcliffe actually doesn't.
Ron looks.
Radcliffe's not the worst.
I think Emma Watson and Radcliffe look okay because they didn't try to age up Emma Watson that much. They just sort of
at all.
Yeah.
No,
they were like, if we put her hair in a French twist, she'll look old.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were like, no, we just actually made her have a good hair day. And then Rupert Grint, they were like, do you mind if we just add like 40 pounds? Because this guy's
we're just gonna make you a little tubby.
We're
gonna make you look tubby and tired.
They were like, we're gonna give you the beer belly that we know this character would have.
Yeah. So the butter beer belly. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
yeah.
Harry has 3 kids, doesn't he? Well, at least in the
he's been getting to work.
3.
Yeah, he's been working,
which is whenever you think about how old Ginny would be, I've got real questions.
Feel bad for her, man. She's just pumping them out.
Yeah.
So
they're only like a year apart.
Yeah.
I don't even remember how old are they supposed to be in that last sequence? How much longer is it after?
It's 19 years.
19 years.
19 years later. So Harry was 17.
And
so they're 35-ish.
So they're 35 and their second child is 11.
Yeah.
Wow, I got the business.
Yeah.
I think J.K. Rowling is projecting.
Because I remember people were talking about towards the end of like even the books and the series, the film franchise itself. it was kind of like, oh, like not everyone needs to end up with someone at the end. Like not everyone needs like essentially a happy ending. Like she knew how she wanted to end the books, with ending with all is well. And it's like, okay, that's great. And the scar never bothered Harry for the rest of his days. But I do remember when Deathly Hallows, the book, came out, and alongside the movie, people were kind of complaining about like you guys said, like the white picket fence type, happy ending for everyone, because it's like I'm assuming that Longbottom ended up with Luna because they kind of hint at it a little bit during part 2, because he's like trying to figure out.
No, there's this whole thing about how, because she won't shut up and she keeps coming up with stuff that I am convinced she comes up with like while she's in a panel. And then like Pottermore has a bunch more shit. But Luna marries Ralph Scamander, who is like, and who is like a random person that's like, oh, he's the grandson of this person who wrote the textbook that's mentioned in this book. It's the dumbest thing. And it's like, and they have twins.
That is sweaty. Whoa.
I'm just like, why? Like, where did you get any of this from?
I feel like she just wakes up and she goes, you know what? She's got darts. After watching Ted Lasso, darts is a very big thing over there. And I just feel like she got a dartboard, put all of her character names up, and just threw them at the damn wall and said, those two, then be banging. Let's go. All right, that one, this one, over there, and you just look at it and you're like, what in the hell is wrong with you? It is that, I mean, Jay, you said the word, and it's very amped. It's projecting. It's also like the worst thing that a creator can do for their brand is, one, to feed into the fan base, to not let it breathe, not let it be its own thing, have to keep talking about it. That's where the Lucas and Star Wars, that's the George R.R. Martin sort of thing of it all. Even to a certain extent, like Peter Jackson with the Lord of the Rings, and making the Hobbit films and making the 3 most insufferable films of all time, and then making this spin-off series that she did, where she wrote the screenplays for him, where the screenplays, sorry Jay, are crap, and no,
those movies are like very mediocre. I mean, I understand.
Yeah, like they're adding all this stuff, and you're just going, wait, that doesn't make sense to the what you've done. It's so dumb.
My favorite thing is I just have real questions about Dumbledore and his aging, based on what he looks like when we first see him in Harry Potter and what he looks like in those movies. Like,
as long as Mads Mikkelsen and Jude Law bone in one of these things, or we see a flashback, I'll be fine with that. Talk about the crime. What is it? What's the next one going to be called? All
right. Well, Ryan just got uninvited from the Fantastic Beasts 3 episode.
No, like so.
The third one's supposed to be called Secrets of Dumbledore, but it's very,
yes, that's right.
It's, because I know Christopher Columbus was talking about how now, like, all the actors he wants to direct The Cursed Child because all the actors and actresses are the same age as they should be. And I get it. Like, it's Warner Brothers, milking their franchises yet again. Like, we couldn't stop at 3 Matrix movies. We're getting a 4th one. And of course, the Lord of the Rings. They tried with The Hobbit. What?
The 4th Matrix movie. How dare you speak ill about the Matrix?
I'm excited for it. It's just that,
Ryan, I'm getting worried about that one, my man.
Shut up, Jay. It's going to be great.
It's just, I guess, look, everyone's trying to expand the universe of these, amazing franchises that they have. And I totally get it. But it's like, honestly, I think Disney's the only one that's doing a good job with it, especially with Star Wars. But actually, I think Star Wars is in a little bit of trouble, but I'm not entirely sure. But
you think?
Well, because, moving from film to TV, I think it's the right move for them because, even for the longest time when Rise of Skywalker, like when they announced it, they didn't announce it as oh yeah, this is going to be the last one until I feel like it was halfway through the marketing. I was like,
as long as those 3 are still alive, Oscar Isaac, Daisy Ridley, and John Boyega, that ain't the last one.
I don't know that Oscar Isaac's ever going back.
No, Oscar Isaac's gone.
It's
Oscar Isaac
called
is very done.
and
Although
here's
he
your
went to
money.
Marvel.
Yeah, he's doing Marvel, so he's still in the Disney
Okay,
game.
no, but my favorite thing ever that I've seen in an interview of all time is when an interviewer on the Rise of Skywalker press tour like asked him like, "Oh, like, would you like to do a Poe Dameron like Marvel or not Marvel, Disney Plus show?" And he goes, ha, "No." And I was like,
Well, I like when they asked Boyega that, and he was like, "No, I'm not getting Disney Plus. Absolutely not. I am not getting."
And you know what's
Disney
funny
Plus.
is that's the same sort of energy as, yeah, if I ever make another Bond movie, I would like to slit my wrists. And then he made No Time to Die. Because, you know, if it's the right place and the right time, they'll do it. And also the right money in your bank account.
Or Ethan Hawke saying,
I'm never going to do one of these things.
Oscar Isaac got himself into some better franchises, I think.
Oscar Isaac literally said, I will not, was emotionally scarred by doing X-Men Apocalypse. And
well,
now
he's doing
so,
we got card counter 1.
yeah.
How many card counters do you think we're going to get?
I think card counter 3 Tokyo Drift
count.
would be an amazing movie.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Tokyo Flush. Tokyo Flush. Like there you go.
I mean, I know Christopher Columbus has been very vocal about the Harry Potter cursed child thing, because
Christopher Columbus can say whatever he wants. Nobody wants to hear from that man. Like the fact that he even came out and mentioned like that he would like to do it. It was a sign. I was like, I read that news and I went, oh, Christopher Columbus is still alive?
Dude, my guy is out here leading the Christmas Chronicles franchise, all right? Hot Santa.
I think while we're canceling the other Christopher Columbus, maybe we should get rid of this one as well.
Yeah, there you go, Nicole. I'm liking it. Well, you don't hear like, you know what's funny is like you hear like David Yates seriously like has dirty secrets on all of Warner Brothers because he keeps directing those movies. And then like Chris Columbus keeps wanting to make this. You never hear Alfonso Cuarón say, you know, I'd like to make another one. You never hear him go, yeah, I'll tap into that property. You want to know why? Because it's okay to move on, guys. It's okay. Because once you make a masterpiece, you don't ever have to do it again.
David Yates is kind of the perfect director for this franchise because he's not a director that I'm super interested in seeing. I don't really care about a David Yates passion project. I don't know if there's much juice to that. So let him kind of have the shackles on, make these movies, which are kind of on rails anyway, throw a little bit of style to it because he's a competent filmmaker, and just keep churning them out, I guess. I don't know. Got to find out about those crimes of Grindelwald.
Who is directing? Was it David Yates or was it Christopher Columbus directing Crimes of the Fantastic Beasts?
He did both of the Fantastic Beasts. Yeah.
David
and he's doing the new one too. He's doing the
What's
new one.
What's the new one called?
Secrets of Dumbledore.
It's Yates again.
Secrets of Dumbledore. We already know all the secrets of Dumbledore because the author won't shut up about them.
Well, no, that's the thing is they've got to actually put some of them into something other than just her interview so that they can clean the franchise of her presence.
Yeah, well, it's the whole Pottermore thing. I think that was like a great idea to like expand the universe of Harry Potter, but I don't want it to become like a J.K. Rowling like bash.
But she doesn't expand the universe; she contracts the universe. They're all like it's only characters that we already know who are in love with each other or who have adventures together or whatever. So the expansion is what's interesting.
No, truly, the thing is, as soon as she said that thing about before Hogwarts had bathrooms,
that was the funniest.
From that moment onward, nothing that woman has said matters to me at all.
I read that one day. I was like, huh.
Like obviously she says a bunch of disgusting things about real life things, but the moment that she said that, I was like, oh, she's genuinely lost it. Like she's genuinely off her rocker, because what could possess you to say that?
The fans needed to know. It's been on our minds since day one.
When I was 8 years old, I had to ask my parents, and they said, I don't know, Ryan. I don't know why the bathrooms are like that. You're just going to have to one day hope that she releases this in a press release and in a manic sort of state. And I just said to my parents, I said, Okay, I'll wait. You know,
I mean,
I'm literally crying. I'm
and then I
laughing
got
so hard.
and
that was probably the out of anyone tweeting anything, I was just like, huh. And I
Nice.
just kept
but
scrolling.
anyway,
like,
back to this
cool.
movie.
Well, yeah. I was trying to get back to the movie, but yeah, this just overall. I know we've been going here for a while, and I don't want to take too much of you guys' time here. I know it's late here already, but let's just get into closing thoughts of this movie. We'll start with Jay, then we'll go to Nicole, then we'll end with Ryan. I'll give mine, and then we'll kind of go through the rest of the closing process.
Sure, yeah. Like I said, it's one of those movies that transcends my critical faculties in some ways. Although I do think it is an accomplished film in its own right. It's also just like it's like a childhood memory that you cherish so much. It's like it's a warm blanket of a movie for me in many ways. And despite some of the flaws that we've pointed out today, you know, they don't give justice to the death of my main man Remus Lupin, which is an unforgivable sin, but. It is a very, very enjoyable film on its own terms. And I kind of want to give one shout out to maybe the most stylish scene in the entire movie. It's a crazy sequence when Harry grabs Voldemort and they jumps off the side of the tower. And they have like these close-ups on their faces. And it looks like they're like morphing and going insane. Really interesting. The effects don't always look stellar, but it's wild enough for me that it really, really works. It's an interesting flourish in a movie made by a filmmaker who I don't think always has interesting flourishes. But that's a wild sequence. Yeah,
that scene. He's like, he's like, we're gonna like, you know, end this together. He just grabs him. I was like, yo, you're touching Voldemort now? Like, what is going on here? But sorry, go ahead, Nicole.
Yeah. No, I also have to shout out, I actually really enjoy the opening, or the not quite opening, but the early sequence in this movie where they go to Gringotts and they like break out on the dragon. I think
didn't even talk
the
about
CGI
that. Yeah,
and all of that is actually really nice. Like all the
looks
work
amazing.
on the dragons, so good. Like maybe some of the best in the whole franchise, honestly. And I also just think that that's such like a fun sequence to sort of have that, which is a little bit of a more like lighter adventure feel that kind of fits the rest of the series a little bit more than like the rest of this movie, which is mostly the battle. Also, I will say watching this movie made me so excited. I'm going to Universal Studios in January, and watching this movie, I was hit all over again by how incredible of a job they did with Harry Potter World at Universal Studios, because it looks like it's right out of this movie. And like the Gringotts stuff, there's some stuff whenever they're in Hogsmeade that it's like the same thing. It's incredible.
It really is. If Harry Potter means anything to you, you go there and there's just this rush of like, oh my God, I didn't think this was possible. Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh my God.
I want to go so bad. Like it is. Hopefully next year, you know, I just haven't really had a chance to travel, but I definitely want to go. It's my cousin went and it's
incredible.
He just bawled his eyes out. He was like, it was beautiful. Like,
you can't hype it enough. You really can't. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. I really do, as much as I have issues with this movie because of, you know, things that we've discussed, as much as it does also my main man, Remus Lupin, and my other man, Fred Weasley, Dirty. I really do think there is so much in it that's good. And I think that it also does feature a lot of like really good work from the cast, even though most of them don't really get that much to do. It's not, you know, I think like a lot of the other movies have like more of a chance for standout work, but everybody's really solid in this. And Alan Rickman and Emma Watson, I think both do really good work in this. I think Helena Bonham Carter and that like, you know, scene that she has is doing like really fun comedic work, actually. Pretending to be Hermione, pretending to be Bellatrix. So I do think that like whatever issues I may have with it that put it firmly below Prisoner of Azkaban in my ranking, I do still think it's a really good movie. And if you don't watch the epilogue, which I did watch it for this podcast, but I typically stop the movie.
Oh, you guys actually skip it?
That's so funny.
Yeah, it literally it makes me angry, so I just stop it right there. I'm like, and that's how it ended. Nice. It really is a really nice end to the series if you do.
Nicole like rips her own Blu-ray and edits it to where it just
she put a scratch right where that it starts skipping when it hits that scene.
I'm like, oh look, it's done. Like,
she shows.
That's also how I watched Rise of Skywalker. I'm like, at a certain point, I'm like, and she's done.
Is that after the opening crawl? When you do that, because that's normally when I stop watching.
It's actually I just watched the Babu Frick scene, and then I'm like, and we're done.
Oh,
great,
absolutely!
Awesome.
Now we're talking.
Stand on legend, Babu Frick.
My gosh.
We do.
Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah, no. So, I really love this movie. It was in my top 20 of 2011. I think it's sitting at my number 16 of the year. A movie that I saw, like I said, 4 times in theaters, an embarrassing amount of times, just because like I didn't want the series to end. Like I wanted to continue. And it was also weirdly, and this was before the stupid Fantastic Beasts movies, this was like a cathartic way of saying goodbye to your childhood. I think I mentioned it on the last time, but like Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter came out at the same time. And yet this series lived longer because of the fact that there was more story to tell. And I love this movie. I never understood why it didn't, in the terrible Best Picture lineup, it didn't make it in, because I thought this is like sort of the celebratory thing that you want to celebrate. It was also, I believe, the number 1 movie of the year at the box office, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm wrong. Definitely was in the top 5 for sure. But it's one of those movies where everyone agreed at how great it was. And it's sort of nice to have one of those. And if you don't like the finale of this, I mean, shame on you. I do want to go to 2 things that I guess Nicole was talking about nitpicky wise that I do kind of agree with her on. And it is the way that Voldemort dies in this movie is so dumb, because if they do ever want to do the cursed child, then they have to explain how all those little particles turn some Macau into the Dark Lord.
Well, if that prevents them from doing the cursed child, then bless them.
Boom, we're good.
Exactly.
Never mind. I take back my criticism.
I was just about to say that, but I also, it's the number 1 thing that nitpick. I know this is a nitpicky thing, but so you have the Elder One, which has all the encompassing powers in the world, and you just want to break it. You don't think maybe you want to?
Well, they don't do that, and they don't do that in the book. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't think you want to put the school back together with that thing?
I'm just
maybe
saying,
fix shit.
Hermione would have screamed at him for that.
I mean,
if
there's no way she would have been like, "Excuse me," like like their reaction afterwards of like just dead in the face is like how I felt. I'm like, bro, really? Look at where you're standing and doing this. It's rubble. You know what I mean?
Well,
So
for me, it was
saying he could have waited like 2 days.
Just a day or 2. No one's gonna come get you, bro. You killed the guy that's gonna come get you.
Well,
you know
no,
what I
but
mean?
also there are like other Death Eaters on the loose at this point still. Like we could have helped round them up.
Oh yeah.
We could have rounded them up. We could have fixed the school.
And also, like, you snap it in half. You live in a magical world. You don't think somebody can maybe figure out how to put those 2 pieces back together?
Yeah, because Harry's wand in part 1, his wand broke when they're operating and whatnot, and Hermione says that she tries to mend it, but she wasn't able to.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Oh well, I'm sure. Well, that's just Hermione. You know what I mean? So
I mean, Ollivander probably could have.
Ollivander can figure it out.
Yeah,
he's still the safe house. It's just waiting for it.
What a boss! Yeah, Ollivander, a boss for sure. But no, it's just other than those things. I mean, it's truly one of the most entertaining and satisfying finales you'll ever have. And yes, it could be more. I've always attested that I think these books, these Harry Potter books, would make it a very interesting long form television series down the road with an entirely different cast. That way you can get more into the emotional contextualities and have everything. plus add things to the lore that aren't unnecessary. Give it, get it out of the hands of her. That's where I think that something like that could work, on like an HBO, even as these shows get darker and darker.
Actually, funny enough, I did really, I didn't mean to cut you off. I do apologize, but I believe there is, like, I read an article, it was either through Variety or Hollywood, where HBO was looking into making Harry Potter, rebooting it into a series.
I think that would be the smart thing to do. Yeah. Don't continue the stuff of the films. Maybe just remake, because there's so much material that they never tapped into.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like Goblet of Fire is like a book that they just completely, to me, just didn't fully.
Look, I'm just saying, Marauders era TV series. Let's go.
Yeah,
those are the kind of things like I want. If we're gonna do that, build out the world.
Nobody wanted Newt Scamander. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Like,
are you kidding me? America has Newt Scamander fever. I can't go around the block without hearing somebody yelling about Newt Scamander.
What I do want is young, serious Remus and James. So,
sounds good. Or just come up with another story. Just another story completely unrelated to Harry Potter.
Well, as we've seen, though, she's not great at that.
Oh, not her involved at all. Absolutely not. No, she's done.
Yeah.
Sorry, you cut off.
Yeah, we need to, as a society, just agree to be done with her.
But Ryan, I'm sorry. Did you have anything else to say before we close out of here?
Nope. Movies are just good, and that's all you need to know.
Cool.
Movies good. J.K. Rowling, not.
J.K. Rowling, no comment.
Yeah.
No comment. Yeah.
It's what she should have. No comments.
Just get off Twitter. Get off Twitter. What are you doing?
Yeah, but you know what? At a certain point, like people are. I mean, she's as bad at as some of these other high profile people. It's just like they don't have a person around them at this point to tell them
to like monitor.
To stop.
Yeah,
and even so, like when they're not there, it would be like a 24-hour sort of thing. You know what I mean?
It's a 24-hour job.
Yeah.
It's the thing of like not everything that comes in here, your brain needs to be spilled out into a public forum.
Someone just needs to change her passwords for her.
Yeah, make them really obscure.
Yeah,
make her go crazy.
Yeah, I mean it's celebrities. What are you gonna do? But so for me, my final thoughts pretty much echo everyone else's. It's just always sad. Like, early back then, we talked about the series, about this maybe becoming a series, but back then it's like, book to movie adaptations were all the rage. We had Golden Compass, we had The Hunger Games, we had Twilight. It was this rush of like book to movie adaptations. But Harry Potter is and for always will be my favorite film franchise. And despite all of its flaws, it really is a magical story. And it's gotten me through some tough times, like growing up. And it's just, I will forever be grateful for the world that J.K. Rowling did give to all of us. Despite her being problematic, a lot of people, I try to separate the art from the creator, especially nowadays. But it's something special. And it's every time I watch part 2, it's like, man, it's over. Like, and until next year, essentially. And it's a beautiful thing, and I really, really want to go back and read the books. I'm just trying to find the time. We're in the middle of award season right now, so we don't have time to watch anything.
Oh, it's catch up season. Yeah, absolutely.
It's crazy. I mean, we still have all these movies coming out, like Thanksgiving. Well, by the time this is out, Thanksgiving will have already passed. So from my past self to future self, I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving. But yeah, it's just you don't get franchises like this anymore. I don't think there'll ever be another franchise, at least for me, that makes me fall in love with a world like Harry Potter. So it's very. I mean, if there is something out there, then again, I don't know. I said that last time, and then Game of Thrones came out, and I love Game of Thrones.
I think it's about capturing that innocence and getting us at an early point, and us going along on a ride. And then as time goes on, it does turn into nostalgia, but it becomes more than just that. It becomes a part of us. And yeah, very few things in this world do that. And I think that that's on purpose, because there aren't as many universal things that we can all cling ourselves to, because not many of them are nearly the quality and have their own sort of things that everybody can connect to.
Well, it's a series that came out about kids when we were kids. Now, series now that come out that are about adults are all about like, man, it's so hard to be an adult, and so they don't give you the same level of like enthusiasm.
Yeah,
everyone connects to different things and different people, and everyone's got a different favorite, and we can all talk about it, but we all do it in a positive manner because we love the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Definitely. Part of it is what Jay said, where it's like they caught us right at the right time, you know what I mean? But then there's other things that came out at the same thing, like Nicole's favorite new series is Twilight, and those movies are god awful. So
don't remind me that I can't have the flashbacks to that day.
You did a marathon, didn't you? Yeah,
I watched all 5 Twilight movies in a row. We do have audio commentaries for all of them coming out on Next Best Picture. I would not recommend doing that to anyone, but I will say I'm sure that particularly the last couple audio commentaries are probably really good content, because I was losing my mind.
And yet that franchise has given us 2 of our enduring movie stars, and Harry Potter's actors for the most part are sort of gone.
Emma Watson's off trying to save the world, so
that's true.
She's doing her own thing. Like, you know,
I don't know. Sitting at that Adele concert today.
Yep.
She's living her best life. She's attended 2 of the best universities on earth.
You know what? She doesn't have to work.
No,
because she's got so much money.
When she sees a role that she wants to do, she does it.
When she wants to auto-tune as Belle again,
she got that bag with Belle.
Look, when she wants to work with Greta Gerwig, she does it.
I mean,
yeah.
True.
Yeah.
And she's the worst part of the whole movie.
Yeah.
Okay, let's not get into that.
Oh,
but
I can't get into that
she
right
did
now.
say.
I mean, if it was originally what it was supposed to be in Emma Stone, it would have been a much better character.
Nope.
Because that's a much better.
That's a much worse casting.
It was the best thing to ever walk this earth. Well,
I love that movie. I love it to pieces.
We love that
movie ever. Best Christmas movie ever.
Well, but, no, it's not Die Hard. None of them. None of the Marsh sisters have machine guns. All right, so let's just get that out of the way. You know,
their words are their machine guns.
It's not kiss kiss bang bang or anything like that.
Oh my gosh. I wanted to thank you guys so much for being a part of this journey with me, and it's over. I mean, I don't know if I'll ever do Fantastic Beasts. Sharia was jokingly saying, he's like, you gotta do Fantastic Beasts, right? I'm like, depends on how the rest of this series goes. Like, if Secrets of Dumbledore onward, exactly. I mean, it's like I'd rather go through Star Wars than go.
I think that's fair.
It's a much better idea.
For sure.
I do Star Wars with you.
Let me talk about Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi. I dare you.
Oh, I can't wait for that series.
It's been an honor having you guys on for this wild ride, and thank you to everyone else who wasn't able to make it on for this podcast. JD, Brendan, Matt Wyatt, Amy Smith, Amanda from Amex NA Reviews. Of course, this is Jay's first debut here on the show. Mm-hmm. So again, thank you so much for coming on, man. I would love to have you back on for whatever other crazy thing we decide to do, but it was great talking Harry Potter with you. It's been an honor for sure.
Hey, thank you very much. Yeah, it was so good to be here. I'm so glad I got to do this movie in particular. Obviously such an important movie, such a huge event in my life growing up. So it was so much fun. And I think I led us down some weird rabbit holes at certain points, so I apologize for that. But you know, it happens.
Yeah.
It happens.
Thank you for letting me come on and just rant about Remus Lupin on multiple podcasts, even ones for movies that he's not in. But no, it's very special. I feel very lucky that I got to be here for like the first episode, a middle one, and the very end. So thank you for listening when I like at the end of the first episode was like, hi, I want to come back. Can I come back and talk about my 2 favorite movies?
Yeah, no, it's been an honor, guys, for sure. But I wanted to give you guys a the leeway to kind of, you know, plug yourself, let everyone know where they can find you. Since this is coming out early December, you know, kind of stick to where, you know, where everyone can find you and whatnot. We'll start with because since I don't know what you guys have working, so it's going to be like, wait a minute. So anyway, Ryan, we'll start with Ryan, then we'll go with Nicole, then we'll end with Jay. Just let everyone know where they can find you on the internet. And
you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at Ryan Mcquade 77. You can find me at Insession Film, where I do the Chase the Gold podcast because it's Oscar season. I also am co-host with Jay Ledbetter for the Extra Film podcast over there. This month, the rest of this year, we will be doing a Pedro Almodovar movie series leading up to his release of Parallel Mothers, and we'll also be doing independent films every now and then. I also have work over at Awards Watch, Awards Radar, and Film Speak, and I also do the Bustin' the Block podcast with Kevin Lee. And so I've got a lot going on, but it's like Jay and Nicole said, it's been an honor, Christian, for you to have us on. You know, I love listening to the show when I'm not on, and thank you so much, man. Just let us know when we can come on and talk about anything else all together again. This was great.
Thank you for the kind words. It means a lot. Go ahead, Nicole.
So the bigger question I do think is where you can't find Ryan online.
Listen,
kidding.
And there was one thing I do want to say is that please go and follow Christian and follow Jay, but also especially follow the great Nicole Ackman. All of them are great, amazing people. You really should go follow them. I mean, yes, follow me as well because I'd love it. But the rest of them, they really are great people, and I think that we should be following positive, warm, intelligent people right nowadays. So yeah, go follow these guys.
Yeah. I'll echo that real quick. Follow these dudes. If you want to follow me, I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at Nicole Ackman 16. The best place to find my work is probably over on Twitter, where I tweet all the different places I'm writing for and podcasting, and I've got a link tree there as well. But you can find a lot of my work over at Next Best Picture. I also have my own podcast with my friend Maggie called Petticoats and Poppies, History Girls at the Movies, that looks specifically at period drama. I'm literally sitting here like, what else do I write for? Where do I podcast? I don't know. It's 11:30 at night, my time. I also write for FF2 Media, Culture S, The Cinemaholic. I'm probably forgetting somewhere that's going to be very embarrassing to me in like 10 minutes when I remember. I also talk Oscars a lot over at the Music City Drive-In podcast, so definitely check that out. But yeah, the best place to find everything is just on my Twitter, where I share all of my work and also mostly just talk about Adam Driver.
Okay, there you go. That's that. Hey, Mr.
That
J.
tracks.
I mean,
100%.
Look, I'm self-aware. I'm mostly just
He's being transparent.
Yeah.
You know
and
what
that's
you're getting
not just
into.
Adam Driver. That's Tom Holland. That's Timothy Chalamet.
Lately, I mostly just talk about Andrew Garfield, yeah, which is a new one for me. But it's really full circle because back in the day, on Tumblr when I was a teen, and now today on TikTok, which cracks me up that some things never change. Andrew Garfield was like the person that people used as a young Remus Lupin, so some things do come full circle. Yeah.
There you go.
There you go. Mr. J. Ledbetter, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on the Twitter at Mr. J. Ledbetter. You can find me on Letterboxd, J. Ledbetter as well, I guess. You can find my work. I don't have all these outlets. These folks, they got 15 different outlets they're working on. They got multiple podcasts. I got one podcast I write once in a blue moon over at Insession Film. And that's pretty much where my work exclusively lies, except for guesting on other people's podcasts, which I'm always happy to do. So if you have a podcast, hit me up on Twitter. Again, that's at Mr. J Ledbetter. Maybe we'll work something out here. I need to start tweeting more about Andrew Garfield or I don't know. Who did you not say? Who's another Harry Styles? Now that he's in the
Tom
MCU
Hiddleston
or something.
Tom Hiddleston. Talk about Tom Hiddleston.
That's in my wheelhouse. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what, Jay? Jay, you should
honestly
tweet about
after today, this might be a Jamie Dornan Stan account.
That's fair. I
Cue
mean,
everlasting
Jay,
love.
What a handsome man. Unbelievable.
I think you should tweet about Jake Gyllenhaal because he's never done anybody wrong, and
well, he's hot in the streets right now.
Yeah, you know, he's a great guy, and anyone that's still talking about any incidents from like 10 years ago about him, just get over it.
We're coming full circle. We talked about Dumbledore. We're going to talk about Jake Gyllenhaal. We love a manipulator, you know?
Yeah, sure.
Brian and I really do get out on the end of this podcast.
Manipulator, huh?
But yeah, definitely go follow Nicole, Jay, and Ryan. All of their links will be in the episode description of this podcast, as well as the Next Best Picture Next Best Picture website and the Insession Film website as well. And of course, you can follow us over on Twitter and Instagram at Film Optix. Says Optix with an X. By the time this is out, obviously our part 1 review will be out, that me and Brendan kind of took a deep dive of Deathly Hallows part 1 there. And I believe we will have like our Tick Tick Boom review is out. Our Ghostbusters Afterlife review will be out, as well as our Hawkeye episode 1 and 2 review. So definitely go check that out. By the time this is out, all that should be up. Maybe a little bit more. I don't know. We're kind of speaking into the future here. But just want to tell everyone now, thank you again. And remember, listeners out there, whether you come back by page or by film, Hogwarts will always be there to welcome you home. And that's a wrap for today. Thank you all for listening. And if you enjoy the show, leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram to stay in the know. That was Nicole, Jay, Ryan. My name is Christian. We'll see you guys in the next one.